Please rise for a pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We are in executive session until the numbers justify full commission. Has everyone had an opportunity to review the minutes from the previous meeting? If so, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
And a second. Discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Minutes are approved. Report of the executive director.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Hope you're all staying cool, as we have record index heats. I don't know about record, but index heat factors coming up here. You should wear cool clothes and you should get out on trails in all this heat, because it's always a good thing to do. Because we've got these brand new fancy maps, paddle maps. You've all got one at your place. This is the new Greenways Blueways map that shows trails throughout northwest Indiana, both in water and in bike trails or walking trails. These things are extremely popular, and we've been on a big push now to distribute them across the region. It improves clarity over the old map, and it's very comprehensive. If you didn't receive a notice from NERC already, or didn't see the notice, we are doing our best to get these distributed, and we have boxes of these available. So Mitch Barloga, which is in the room, is right there. If you can find Mitch after the meeting, he will be right out this door, in fact, in the back, or you can swing your car around to the next drive and come right back here. We have a garage back there filled with boxes of these, and you are more than welcome to take a box, take some back to your city hall, town hall, etc., and have these distributed. These are very, very popular around the region, and it showcases the region very well. So please take some and do that. Also on the theme of trails, yesterday was the opening of the Dunes Kankakee Trail segment that creates linkages from the Indiana Dunes Visitor Center to the State Park and also to the town of Porter. Very, very well attended, very exciting. This eventually goes down through Chesterton, Valparaiso, Pouts. Very, very big deal. And just want to thank the Indiana Dunes Tourism and town of Porter and just all the folks that worked together on getting this opening. You also have in front of you a flyer for an event on July 26th.
Welcome. This service is provided by
charging station for electric vehicle chargers. Deb Backus is in the audience here as well from South Shore Clean Cities. Huge thanks to South Shore Clean Cities and to NIPSCO and also to the city of Portage, who owns this building, for cooperation in being able to get our charging stations out front. You probably saw them all clearly marked when you came in. I'm very, very excited about that. On July 26th, which is just next week, next Tuesday, there will be an event at 11 a.m. that is not only, it's going to be located here at those charging stations, but really celebrates this program all across northwest Indiana and the success of installing these charging stations, and you're invited to be at that event. Deb, if I'm not sure where you're sitting right now, is there anything else you want to say about that?
Nope, I would love to have everybody who's got charging stations. We've got 22 of municipalities across northwest Indiana represented with charging stations. Some of them install their own, others are companies and hospitals and such. So we'd love for as many folks who have them around so we can recognize you for your site.
Fantastic, thank you. Also, I'm going to turn it over quickly to Gabrielle Betunis. There is a workshop related to Title VI, which is, well, she can talk about it, but it's a requirement, it's not an option for your communities. And so Gabrielle will fill you in on the details of that workshop coming up for your communities.
Okay, thank you, Ty. Well said. Good morning, everyone. I first want to ask, how many of you know what Title VI is? Great. How many of you have a Title VI plan for your city, town, or county? And did you know that it is now a requirement to have a Title VI plan and be in compliance if you receive any federal funds, especially through INDOT? So if you did not know any of those questions, then I direct you to the letter that is right in front of you, inviting all cities, towns, and counties in Northwest Indiana to attend this Title VI training workshop. It will be held right here at NERC. It'll be led by the Federal Highway Administration, and it will be on Tuesday, August 30th. And at this workshop, you will learn all about Title VI and what needs to be done in order to be compliant with Title VI and the strategies and the step-by-step process in developing a Title VI plan. So I encourage all of you to send an appropriate staff member, preferably one that will ultimately be your Title VI coordinator, to attend this. Again, you can RSVP, and all of that is at the bottom of this letter. This is a very important requirement, and NERC is here to provide any technical assistance with this, and we are offering you this workshop. So if you have any questions, please feel free to contact me. I'll also be here after the meeting, so please do send someone to this workshop. Any questions?
Thank you, Gabrielle. And again, there's a notice about that on your places. We also have a staff service award this morning for a 10-year anniversary, but we did this portion of the agenda a little earlier in the agenda, and I don't think Eman is in the room, so I think we will hold off a little later on that. But thank you very much. Unless you have any other questions for me, I'm going to turn it back over to the chair. Thank you.
We now will do a presentation, Mitch Barlogan, and this is on the roles and decision making for the TPC.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
I'll be there in a moment. Okay. That looks good. Much better. For those of you that I saw yesterday at the Dunes Banking Trail opening, I will not be taking a selfie this morning. It's simply too early for that. But for those otherwise, I am here to make a presentation, actually, much like the very presentation that I did during, bring this to me, that I did during the TPC meeting that we had a couple of weeks ago. We believe it's important for all the commissioners here to understand how this new function works at NERC and the new committee structure. We've been having a lot of questions to field since the meeting, and we want to make sure that there's perfect clarity amongst all commissioners and amongst all stakeholders regarding this new setup at NERC. So, Mr. McDermott. Yes.
Earliest question ever. Did we vote on this, the full body?
I will be going over history regarding this, but in a quick answer, no. It was not voted on, to my knowledge. Okay, so, like I said, I'm going to try my best to answer all the questions here. For those commissioners that were here at the TPC meeting originally, please bear with me, there are some new slides. So we'll move ahead. Just a real brief history behind how all the committee reformatting came about. Blair Milo actually had dialogue with other commissioners, as we found out as early as 2014 regarding this matter. But in 2015, the structure was actually approved in May of 2015. The overhaul was deemed necessary to improve decision-making adherence to our 2040 plan. Of course, a very important document for all of us. Better oversight of financial matters, TIP changes, etc. I'll talk about that momentarily. Keep topical committees in place for public participation. Again, momentarily I'll expand upon that. And combine both the old TPC with the Pathways to 2040 Committee. The old TPC, for everyone's edification, the Transportation Policy Committee, and we merged that with the Pathways to 2040. And we have questions.
We have a clarification. I believe that maybe the question was misunderstood.
Okay.
The commission did approve the restructuring 14 months ago in May. So this restructuring was done by the full commission.
What resolution was that?
I don't know the number of the resolution, but it was passed by the.
I thought it was actually the committee members to the bodies we're talking about there. So
I believe there was
a misunderstanding.
Misunderstanding there. Wanted to
Obviously, we
clarify
did
that.
approve that by vote, yes.
I don't think there was a resolution per se. I think it was an adoption of the structure.
Yes. And that was again in May of 2015 when the structure was adopted.
By the full commission.
By the full commission. Yes, sir. Okay, so again, this TPC, which I'm going to be focusing on pretty much from this point forward. All the other topical committees pretty much have been in place for many, many years here at NERC, but the TPC is a special note today. And here is the chart. And I apologize to my young colleagues here that I am blocking you. As you can tell, the structure now, of course, all of it revolves around you, the commissioners here at NERC. Pretty much the heart and soul of our organization. But it fans out accordingly into a series of committees that help with decision-making before it gets to this level. What we have here is the new Technical Planning Committee right there next to the commissioners, the Topical Committee, and all of them, many of them you're familiar with. Ped, Pedal, and Paddle, Environmental Management Policy, Land Use, Rail Vision, Transit. And we've actually put a new one together called the Surface Transportation Committee, the STC. This is taking over much of the transportation function from the Transportation Policy Committee for roadways. So we've kind of divided out the transportation functions into these separate committees that have a number of separate stakeholders involved. And then we have an oversight committee here. It's called the Transportation Resource Oversight Committee, belovedly acronymed as TROC. Not a fossil we found in the back of this building. TROC is that oversight group that will take a look at the finances regarding our transportation improvement program, which I will mention as TIP from this point forward many times. And as a disclaimer, if I get acronym heavy, please stop me. I am more than happy to explain them. But the Transportation Improvement Program, obviously, this is the core document for all of our programming here for transportation funding throughout the region. And we wanted to make sure we had a group of peers to overlook this body, overlook this money, so to speak, as it continues to flow through the other committees and, of course, back to the commission for final approval regarding projects through the region. Other committees that I will not expand upon, we have an outreach committee that has expanded and has also come about, and the local government assistance, legislative and finance, which have been in place previously. The membership of the TPC, as we get into the TPC in detail, 12 commissioners, 4 of them from each county, and each of those commissioners can send a proxy. There are 3 transit operators that we have appointed. We have now added another, also from GPTC, 1 Northwest Indiana Forum representative, an NDOT representative. Now, I talked about a NICD, the Northern Indiana Commuter District, Transportation District of the South Shoreline. They have a special representative, as well as the Gary Public Transit Corporation. And an FHWA FTA representative who is a non-voting member of this body. Again, this was the structure. We have another question. Yes, go ahead.
We had 2 transit operators, and the executive board recommended or discussed adding 2 other direct recipients to the TPC. That has to be done by a full commission.
Yes, sir.
Vote, which we now have a full commission present.
Very good.
That's why it was delayed from the last meeting. There was a recommendation made by TPC to add 2 other direct recipients to the TPC, and that's pending at this point because we have to take action as a full commission on that addition.
Yes, sir.
So pardon my interruption.
No worries, and life comes at you fast, so I'm trying to get this evolved, and I appreciate the clarification, Chairman, as always. Yes, ma'am.
So, we never got a PowerPoint presentation when we approved this 14 months ago. Right? Because I've been on RMC for 13 years. I've faithfully attended almost every single meeting. I didn't think it was broken. I really didn't, and quite frankly, I've gotten tons of complaints within the last month about this new system because nobody realized what they were voting on. I guess, because I didn't realize it was broken, and now that I'm getting a lot of complaints from people that are not part of the process anymore, they've been part of the process for years. It just seems like if we're going to completely blow up the model and start fresh, that we should get this type of presentation when we're voting on it, instead of getting it after the fact. And quite frankly, it's confusing right now. We still don't know what's going on. We're making changes to the presentation we're getting 14 months later. I mean, no offense, Mr. Chairman, but you're sitting there correcting them, but the PowerPoint presentation we're getting 14 months later is wrong.
I'm sure you'd rather I did than not.
I'd rather get this when we're voting on it.
We had full discussion on this matter, and people were invited to several meetings with Blair Milo to review this process, and it was open to any commissioner who wanted to attend. So there were several meetings, and I know the attendance was very sparse, but there was a complete presentation of this proposal at the time of its adoption. I would differ on that.
I think it's best if I just finish this And hopefully, questions will be answered. If not, obviously, we have enough time to air those out. So, moving forward here, the actual selection of the commissioners on the TPC and also on all the committees. So all the committees have now seen an entirely new structure of leadership that include commissioners. And so moving forward, we put out a preference survey. The preference survey was actually sent out in February to all the commissioners electronically by NERC. And it gave all the commissioners the ability to select which group, which committee you prefer to be on. And of course, I talked about the topical committees, I talked about the outreach committee, and of course, the transportation, the technical policy committee, or the TPC. They were all mentioned. And everyone had an equal option to select their favorite or their most preferred and an alternative to go forward. So that was sent out. A paper ballot was then distributed in April, this April. This is all in 2016, mind you. Paper ballot was then sent out to kind of shake the tree, so to speak. There was a turnout was a bit low on the electronic ballot, so a paper ballot was submitted and asked for to be completed at the end of that meeting. The review after that was done, Chairman Tunn as well as Ty both reviewed all of the applications that came in, all the preferences that were submitted, and they decided to assign those selections based on eligibility, experience, and interest. The eligibility, obviously, you have to be a resident of the county that you're serving, first and foremost, and then the other factors that were involved. So these were considerations that were put out there for the selection of the TPC specifically, and of course for the other committees as well. The announcement was made at the May meeting, and we, here in July, have started out with the new committee structure. We've had the TPC, the inaugural meeting of the TPC, chaired by Michael Griffin a couple weeks ago, and now all the other committees are moving right along as well, and hopefully we'll have a smooth process going forward. Now, continuing the selection, all committee appointments will serve for 1 year. Okay? Come the start of the year, another preference survey will be sent out to all the commissioners. Of course, you understand there is commissioner turnover. We have that every year. So we want to afford all commissioners, both new and old, the opportunity to participate at all levels of NERC, at all levels of decision making if they feel they would like to. Now, the chairperson is responsible again for selection, again with consultation with our executive director. As for the TPC, it has to be emphasized that we have 4 commissioners that serve per county, and that these commissioners serve as a representative of that county and not their own community. And so if there are any issues that are important to any other community within that county, we implore them to please talk to those commissioners that represent you directly from the TPC. And again, what needs to be stressed, above all, final decision-making lies with this body and not with the TPC regarding major decision-making. Now, I want to go over briefly the function of the TPC to give you all what they have been charged to do. They receive funding requests and review for recommendation. They provide tip changes, again, transportation improvement program changes, and recommendations to the commission. We're actually going to have 3 of them for consideration and for action this morning. They consider as new projects support the implementation of the 2040 vision, an extremely important element of their work. Review program applications for funding solicitations, and advise NERC on policies and programs related to federal transportation funding as needed. Other responsibilities include delegates and instructs topical policy committees on solicitations. When I get into a flowchart breakdown regarding this, hopefully it will be a clear issue. Now, it ensures plans and policies related to transportation, environment, public participation are consistent with federal planning and our 2040 plan. There's a lot of regulations, there's a lot of guidelines out there that NERC has to abide by, either federally mandated or, of course, put forward by our own decision making. We have to make sure we're clear and consistent across all of those guidelines. And we also, TPC will also set categorical funding targets and priorities. So when we have solicitation, that'll be the august body that comes together to find out what type of funding goes where and how much. So, with all that said, what I'm going to get into now are flow charts. This is what I'll conclude my presentation with. There are three major decision-making processes that the TPC is going to deal with over the course of their history. And all of those processes conclude with your decision-making at this level. Keep that in mind. All these bubble charts are going to have at the very bottom of it, the full commission. First one deals with TIP and project scope changes. This is the most common decision-making that we have. The TIP is changed on a regular basis. Gary Evers is here, and he can more than be happy to explain to you about that issue. Not right now, Gary, you're off the hook. But it's a fluid document. Projects change, costs escalate or de-escalate, scopes change. We have to make sure that TIP reflects that accurately. Now, I'm going to try to be as slow as I can, or at least as thorough as I can. And I know if you can't read some of this, I do apologize. There are four major components here, again, depending on what the change involves. When I say QTR up front, we have a quarterly tracking meeting where all sponsors who have projects in our TIP, local sponsors that is, they come to NERC every quarter, hence quarterly tracking meeting, and they talk to us about the progress of their project. How's it going? Where are the phases of your project? Are they in the correct year? Do they have the correct amount allocated to them? And so on and so forth. Out of those quarterly tracking meetings, there's going to be some changes that will come about. TIP changes are going to be needed. And not only at the quarterly tracking meetings, we also hear changes from INDOT as well and other transportation stakeholders. So, like the majority from my perspective, we're going to get a lot of suggestions at the quarterly tracking meeting. Now from there, we get to this TROC group. Now again, the Transportation Resource Group will determine if funding is available for the request, and then they'll recommend action. Now that request can come in two forms, okay? You can simply have a financial request, okay? A certain phase of a project, you name it, engineering, right-of-way, construction, it needs more money, maybe a lot more money. Well, then it's going to go through this process. Maybe your project is actually going to change scope altogether. Now what I do, and my major focus being trails, we see this all the time. Roadway projects aren't really a difficult scope change. Roads are already there. They're going to get wide, they're going to get narrow, you can have some intersection changes. But a trail can move completely in a whole different direction. They're like, nope, we can't do it there, we got to put it 2 miles that way. Well, we want to talk about that. That's a scope change. I think you understand where I'm coming from. So depending on where it goes, if it's just a financial issue, it'll come straight to the TPC, they'll review the request, recommend action, or the topical committees will get it depending on the scope change. If it's a trail, it goes to pedal and paddle. A transit issue, it goes to transit operators. If it's a roadway issue, a major change to a roadway scope, Surface Transportation Committee will look at it. So the peers will understand what's going on, and that they will have their say-so in what gets changed. And then again, the final decision rests with this body, with the commissioners, when it's all said and done. Okay? Moving on to another, new project solicitation. This is when we have a call for projects. We're not going to have a call for another year or two, just so you know, but regularly we do have calls. And it depends on the funding allocation. Surface Transportation Program monies, or CMAQ, Congestion Mitigation Air Quality Program monies, you name it. Whatever we are attributable to distributing and programming, okay? The selection of this process will happen accordingly, okay? TROC up here, they're going to set the funding. How much money is going to be available for this funding round? They are going to debate that. And then once they have a number established, it kicks down into the process. The TPC will come together. The project goal setting will happen according to the 2040 plan. They will set the funding targets.
Does that make it better? This one is a tough one to see. No, I think the print is too small.
That's why I'm walking through it. So again, I apologize for the small type. It's about as big as I can make it. But again, they set the funding targets. I want to emphasize that the TPC will set the funding targets. Okay, let's just put out an arbitrary number of $50 million for the next funding cycle. How much goes to roads? How much goes to transit? How much goes to trails? On and on and on. We also have a livable centers initiative for planning our downtown districts and livable centers throughout Northwest Indiana. How much will they get? And that'll get decided at the TPC. And then they'll determine eligible phases for funding. It may or may not be a big issue, but we also determine at the MPO level which phases of the project development can be funded. Are we going to fund engineering all the way through? Or are we going to just fund right-of-way construction or just construction? And that's going to be the determination of the TPC. After that, it gets kicked down to the topical committees for each committee to put together an application for their own particular area of interest. Surface Transportation Committee, we're putting one together for roadways. Head, pedal, and paddle will be helping to put one together for pedestrian and bicycle transportation or trails or sidewalks. Again, on and on and on. An Environmental Policy Committee with projects that are eligible for that funding. Now, once they come back, TPC is going to make sure that those solicitations are on the up and up. We'll have a look at it, we'll approve it, we'll go back to TROC. TROC will then issue the solicitation. The topical committees will review the projects that come in, they will rank them accordingly. The TPC will approve those rankings, and they will recommend projects for funding. And yet again here, the commissioners will have the final say in which projects get selected for that new tip. Now, keep in mind, we have had a situation, actually the last transportation funding that we had for my program, or the Transportation Alternatives Program, which has actually been eliminated. This group remanded it back to the old TPC. There was enough debate and concern from the commissioners, justifiably so, that it went back and had to be revoted on. And actually the TPC then revoted it back to the Head, Pedal, Paddle Committee. So there is a precedent. It doesn't happen often, but it's within the power of this group. The final major decision-making pathway for the TPC includes a comprehensive plan amendment. Any kind of major projects that come into our region, let's put one out there that you've heard about before called the Ilian Expressway. A major, almost $1 billion facility. Obviously, that's a major addition to this region. And because of this reason, it has to go through a comprehensive plan amendment. Okay? Up here, we'll have the request from the sponsor. In the case of the Iliana, it was NDOT. They made the request. The TPC is then, the new TPC reviews the request, sets the public meeting, and then forwards to the appropriate topical committee in the TROC. Again, the topical committee, it depends on what the major addition will be. In many cases, it's roads. In some cases, it's transit. Okay, we have the Westlake issue. That'll be coming before you soon. But in this case with Iliana, the topical committee would have went to the Surface Transportation Committee. They would have reviewed it. TROC would have made sure the tip was also on the up and up, that the financial request was fiscally constrained, so to speak. We had enough money in the tip to make it happen. And then the TPC would come down, and there would be a number of processes that would have to be approved, including congestion management, the environmental justice, the air quality conformity, and the new addition to the Transportation Improvement Program, all taken care of as a recommended vote at the TPC. And again, at the final stage, all of you make the final decision on that 2040, whatever plan it is, amendment. And this is also what's going to be the occurrence when we get into the new 2050 plan, which we're going to be kicking off probably within the next year or so. Okay? So those are the three major decision-making pathways, a brief history of the TPC, and the selection process behind it. And now, any questions?
One or two comments, if I could. The meetings are, as it was pointed out, all meetings are taped and videotaped and available, so if someone misses a meeting, they're available online. Anyone can check the May 15 meeting. And I believe the minutes reflect. Mr. Benson, do you have the minutes?
I did, and what I just switched to the month before. There was a presentation by Blair Milo on it, and I actually moved to approve it, and you weren't there. But it was a information the minutes are there, and it wasn't a one meeting thing.
Is it a full commission or?
And actually, Mayor Milo walked the commission through every committee in the committee write-up, in the committee makeup. And that's when she offered special sessions for people to come and be informed. I have, from March 16, the handout where it describes every committee and every action that was taken.
And in April, there was a report of the chair.
And we didn't get back a lot of, we have a number of new people on the commission. So we didn't get a lot of people looking at signing up right away. So again, we came back in April and handed out this information again and asked for people to re-sign up. So we went from that specifically to a spreadsheet of the responses that were given. This is what we worked on, what people said they wanted and what they didn't want, and what they would do if they had to. And in the minutes, I said, if you don't pick a committee, I will assign you on one. Verified by your location. If you're Lake County and it's a Lake County job, then you have to live in Lake County. But as far as that goes, we followed what people sent back. There's a complete list of who returned them in 16 and who returned them in 15. So I can tell you, I won't read it, but I can tell you exactly what we worked from. It was this sheet. And those were the people, after 4 months of handing out what the committees did, to give people a chance to sign up for what they wanted. It's already the middle of the year. These assignments are up in December. So anyone I would urge that wants to be on the TPC that isn't on the TPC should put that on their survey sheet and or talk in addition to the newly elected chair of their interest. People had talked to me about their interest on different committees, but I made sure what they said was reflected on their form. Highly interested is where we started. And we have to go down the list, somewhat interested, moderately interested, so forth and so on. People were hesitant, and I think part of that is because it's a new structure that we voted on in May. Some people weren't elected and came in and they wanted to review it. So we thought we gave sufficient time for people to familiarize themselves with the duties of all these committees and went through the process of describing who's on the committee and what do they do for each committee that was created last year. And this was all done with input by Blair Milo, and I inherited the responsibility of assigning those positions based on people's preferences, as you said on the overhead. Location, if it applies to that committee, have to be first. You can't apply to be on TPC for Lake County if you live in Porter County. That you're out. Got to be an elected representative from the county. Then your interest level went next. And then, obviously, you don't want people on there with no experience, so you try and match interests, equal interest areas with some with experience. And if you still don't have the committee filled, you've got to put people in slots. And that's part of the responsibility of being a commissioner to the NERC process, is to fill those committee assignments and do your part. If the 2040 plan is going to succeed, we have to work as a unit. We can't work as individual people pursuing their own particular agendas. We have to work on what's best for the whole 3-county region. And that was the impetus behind the 2040 plan, I thought, was we're one region and we need to work that way. So if people have representatives on TPC, and they're one of the commissioners that's on there, and they need to access that TPC, those commissioners on TPC are representatives of the rest of the commission, and they should be consulted with the preferences of the people that are not voting members. and should carry forth their position to the TPC, in my opinion. That's the function. They're representatives. They're not there to ignore what other people need or want in their areas. They're there to represent their county. And that's where the access comes in to everybody else. So to summarize what you've said, and very well, these items were distributed many times prior to the first of the year. They were discussed, and I made the effort and delayed, which I don't like to do, but delayed purposely until the last, what was it, last two meetings before making the assignments, to just give everybody a chance to familiarize themselves with this, which we handed out multiple times. So there's been full information, I think, and transparency on this. It's a new change in the way things are done. Nobody put it out that it came down from the mountaintop, that it can't be reviewed after we've given it a fair shot. But we haven't done that yet. We've made a few observations that need to be done. But as far as giving the process and the committees and the people on the committees the responsibility and the authority to try and make it work, we don't know what to change until we actually see the evidence as presented. We're rushing to judgment, I think, in many parts of the criticism because we haven't given the people who are willing to take the responsibility the opportunity to exercise that responsibility. So I'm urging some consideration of their responsibility and giving them the authority to try and make things work. If it doesn't, we're not here, as I said. It didn't come on stone tablets. I did not ask for, but I do appreciate the opportunity to try and make this new structure work. And I think we can all pull together, as indicated by the 2040 plan, to try and do that. It's not perfect. Nobody said any plan would be perfect. But we were told about it several times, and it was voted on by the full commission, and it became my responsibility then to implement. Thank you.
Any other comments? Yes.
I have a question.
Can you hit the line, please, Alan?
It's more tactical. Is there a master list of the dates for all the meetings for the committees so that we can get those?
Absolutely.
Is that on the website or that we
It can be.
Well, yes. You want to mention something, Tyler? Okay, yeah, we do regularly put the meeting dates on our website. Sometimes there is a shift month by month, but there's a usual set day and time of the month for each of the meetings. And we make sure that we keep that up to date as much as possible and on the website.
There's a hand.
If I could add to this, in the handout itself that's in front of you, it lists the dates when the committee normally meets.
And on your hand.
Some of the committees, though, are new, such as the Surface Transportation Committee and the Outreach Committee, and those are in formation, so I don't know that those committees have worked out their meeting schedule yet, but for the most part, the regular meeting times are listed.
Question.
Yes, sir.
Yes, I guess my question would be in regards to, I'm not questioning the transparency of the process because you did a lot of work there, but in regards to the proxy, I guess there was confusion from LaPorte County or Michigan City that we could send a proxy instead of a commissioner, and I don't think that was clear. Because some of the reasons there wasn't request to have representation was because I wasn't aware that we could send a proxy, and I don't know if that was clear in some of the first correspondence or requests. Because, I mean, particularly Michigan City runs the largest transit in LaPorte County. We run the Triangle transit route through the entire county. And we don't have anybody any representation there, and so that was, alarming. But once again, the proxy part
Need to be part of that municipal government.
absolutely.
So, in other words, a proxy could be your chief engineer,
Or my director of transit.
whatever.
Yeah.
But someone who is employed full-time by your municipality, and that person still is responsible to you as the commissioner. for anything that should happen when they're here and you're not.
Okay. That was our, issue of clarification.
You don't have to make a permanent assignment. It can be someone, if you're not available, that can come and represent you after they've reviewed the material for the day.
Mr. Chair, with your leave, I just want to make a comment in the hopes of offering some clarification. May I importune you, Mitch, please, to go to the portion of your presentation that depicts this, please? Yes, sir. The original graphic. One of the things I think that, and I'm sensitive to the comments that Commissioner McDermott had made, because there had particularly a comment which referenced people who historically have been out allowed to participate on this before didn't feel that they had a seat at this table. And I understand why there would be that misperception. I often have thought that perhaps we should have used different letters, named this committee something entirely, abandoning TPC as the nickname because it reminds us of the old Transportation Planning Committee, and I think it connoted something it didn't mean to. It's my impression, although some of the words that happened in our inaugural meeting of this committee it's nascent, so it's brand new, it is evolving, and that is absolutely true, because it's basically, we're still burping it, and it still has 12 o'clock feedings and that sort of thing, and it's very organic. So, but my read of this, from the time that we were first presented with the ideas, and as the idea evolved before it was adopted by the Commission on the 21st of May of 2015, those committees that we call topical, so you have service transportation, transit operators, Ped Paddle Committee, and environmental management, those are new, relatively speaking, except environmental management is sort of an evolution of a prior policy committee. But it seems to me that those can actually have a great deal of population from a variety of qualifications. And as I read it, they will be doing a lot of the heavy lifting along with the Technical Review and Oversight Committee. And that the function of the Technical Planning Committee is just to create a stage of last review. And all they may be doing will be just verifying process, reviewing how it went through the committee process, and I do know that they have the power to allocate categorically. But even then, they make the recommendation. Now, mind you, that was all the TPC did before, the Transportation Planning Committee, and I recognize that the power of that recommendation is no trifle. But I think that what we need to do better as a commission is communicate to all the stakeholders. I had a great conversation with your city planner, Mayor Muir, who's very able. I respect his talent a great deal. And I think I was able to assuage some of his anxiety. He came to that first meeting and he had some of the concerns that you shared today, and the concerns of a practicing planner, a professional planner, about his historic understanding of what the committee could do. And after I explained where I believe that those committees are going to become the place of the heavy lifting, and the Technical Planning Committee, which I wish we would review as the review committee or something, essentially will be reviewing. And it added another function. The idea was, the rationale for that creation was to integrate what had historically been a segregated committee review. The Pathways to 2040 Implementation Committee had always been a standalone committee, and it wasn't always clear where it fit in the process to review compliance for all the plans. The idea was to integrate it with that committee so that the one new step that's added at that last step prior to recommendation to the full commission is implementation. Later during my report, you're going to see in the 4th clause of the preamble for every one of our resolutions a new section that actually has a recital saying that it's been reviewed for compliance. I beg your pardon, why am I having that trouble today? I beg your pardon. It may be that. That indicates that it has been reviewed for compliance. So, and I agree. G.K. Chesterton was asked once about the difficulty of extending the faith of Christianity at the time. It could be any faith. And he had this wise comment about that he felt that his faith had not been tried and found wanting, but rather that it had been found difficult and left untried. I hope that we won't make the mistake with this new idea that we're finding it difficult, but we're not going to, as a result of that, leave it untried. I do believe that we're trying. You'll see today that we're going to be open to a tweak that we think is important to make for it. but we do want to give it a chance. And I think we need to do a better job of having the people who historically participated on the old Transportation Planning Committee to understand the role of those topical committees and how important they are, and still welcome them to be part of the conversation at the Technical Planning Committee level. I don't know if that addresses some of the anxiety about this new step.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman?
You have a question?
Yeah, we have one.
I have a question and a comment.
Yes, sir.
So, and Michael, what you said is all true, but some of the problem could be the fact that another layer was added to it. I mean, our attendance at some of our meetings are low anyway, so now we basically added another layer where you have a subcommittee feeding another committee, and that committee's feeding. It's hard, I think it's hard for a lot of our members to participate in the smaller committees, knowing that it still has to go to the technical committee. So if I'm on the Surface Transportation Board, I'm going to want to know how you reacted at the technical committee from any recommendation from my board. And then so that I have to go to that meeting, then that meeting, and then this meeting. So the participation, it could be hard for a lot of members.
Mr. Chairman, one last comment. I want to take into your question, and I want to take into your comment here. Being a staff member here for a dozen years, I'll admit it was not broken, but it wasn't comprehensive. That's what we have to be very careful about here. The Technical Planning Committee now takes in all facets of planning that we deal with in NERC, with transportation being very single focused. We're now bringing in reports from the environment, from transit, from land use, from non-motorized. And yes, you're right. It does add another layer. But at the same time, we're trying our best to incorporate everything that NERC has a mandate plan for. And we feel at this time this is the best method based on collaboration, and it could change. Nothing's set in stone. If this thing hobbles along, we might have to fix it. But we hope, as Chairman Tutt has mentioned, let's give it a try and see where it goes.
All right, thank you very much. Tom, your comment was well taken. We understand that, but in an effort to be comprehensive as possible and inclusive, that's why the committees are there. So your point's well taken, and I also think that Chair's point is well taken, Mr. Griffin, in that another name, I didn't pick the name. I picked the job. And with the job came the responsibility of doing what we felt we had to do. But I'm asking for some temperance, some time to work out the knots in the rope and see where we can go from there. If we find a problem, wasn't handed down from the mountaintop, we can address it. But let's give the people on the committees a chance to do their job and do the best they can, and I know they will. They're committed to it. You wouldn't be here today if you weren't, especially in light of the heat and everything else that's going on. We certainly appreciate the input, and we're not close to input, but we do feel that we need to give it a fair shot. So with that, I'd like to move to the report of the chair, which is the next item on the agenda.
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good morning, my colleagues, friends, and commissioners. I am reporting on behalf of the Technical Planning Committee. We did meet, as has been previously reported to you, on the 12th of July of this year, and we did hear presentations from the staff regarding roles. We have, in fact, the presentation that you just received, and we were able to sort of be trained on new ways that we're going to try to operate. We also heard updates from the topical committees that were prepared, either through NERC's staff or the committee members that were present there. And that will become a regular agenda item. So in light of my friend and colleagues, Commissioner Smith's comment, there will be, at least for a while, the need to have the chairs of those topical committees to at least attend those meetings, because they'll be regularly asked to give us some input, particularly if there's going to be a corresponding request for action on behalf of the TPC. You do have in your packet before you 3 resolutions that have been invited for your consideration today. I can tell you up front, all 3 of these have come before you with a favorable recommendation and of the Technical Planning Committee. I did want to advise you of one small correction that needs to be made. The text of each is correct. It does identify each as amendments, either 26, 27, or 28. But the resolution numbers need to be corrected. After resolution 1625, or on page 18, you want to correct that resolution to read 1627. And on page 22 of your package, you want to correct that, I believe, to read 1628. Having said that, I'm going to recognize Gary Evers, who will take us through each of the resolutions, and following his discussion and elucidation, we will bring the recommendation back to the commission with your leave, Mr. Chair, for the action of the commission itself.
Please do so, sir.
Thank you. The first amendment this morning is Amendment 26. This amendment consists of two types of projects. The first type is Highway Safety Improvement Program projects, and the second type is changes to other projects. I want to point out that the HSIP projects that we're adding this morning were all authorized by the board at previous meetings. We've indicated in the resolution numbers 1518, 1529, and 1608. By those prior resolutions, you were simply agreeing to provide the funding for the projects. And what we're doing this morning is actually installing those projects into our TIP. The first project was one submitted by Lake County, and it's improvements at the intersection of 109th Ave and US 41 on the west side of Lake County. Second project is 109th Ave safety improvements, Delaware Parkway to State Road 53 in Crown Point, a new roundabout at 109th Avenue and Iowa Street, just east of I-65. Some improvements on the north side of Valparaiso along Ransom Road, a signal timing project in Valpo, a historic project, two historic projects here for the town of Couts. We have never put a project into Couts, and we have two of them for you this morning. A sign head replacement project and pavement marking project. A project for the city of Hammond, a pedestrian island at the main entrance on 173rd Ave to Purdue. And a couple more here. Another project for City of Hammond, the installation of hawk signals. These are flashing signals at the trail crossing locations indicated here. And finally, for the City of Gary, a sign head replacement project. That's the end of the brand new projects. In terms of the modifications to existing projects, we have two in the City of LaPorte. One adding funding for right-of-way phase, right-of-way engineering phase for a trail project. The other one allocating additional dollars for sidewalk replacement. City of Valparaiso was awarded through your action $900,000 additional for a roundabout at Silhavy Road and LaPorte Avenue, and we are allocating this money through this resolution. And $800,000 is going to right-of-way and $100,000 is going to construction. City of Gary, we have got a sidewalk construction project near Marquette School, changing the year on that from 16 to 17. City of Portage, intersection improvement project, adding additional funds. The next project, actually two projects, City of Gary and Gary for GPTC. A really neat thing happened here was when Gary Transit approached NDOT about doing some improvements along Broadway in conjunction with their Broadway Rapid Transit project. NDOT very graciously approved. Then the City of Gary approached NDOT about maybe working with them to improve the crosswalks at IUN, and it just sort of has snowballed since then. We've got a very substantial project happening on Broadway as a result, primarily due to the cooperation, the terrific cooperation that we've had with NDOT. So you can see the two awards that we're making here. Some additional funding at the bottom of the page for the City of Hammond on their, we call it Chicago Ave project, reconstruction project there in Hammond. And finally, LaPorte County, a couple of changes to their bridge project there, 2 bridge inspection projects, and some additional funding from the city of Crown Point for their 125th Avenue Safety Project. These projects have all been reviewed by Indiana's Interagency Consultation Group for Air Quality and Conformity. They've been exposed to the 7-day public comment period. We received no comments, and as Chairman Griffin said, they've all been approved by TPC.
Mr. Chairman, all of the substance of this resolution has been recommended for your favor from the TPC. It doesn't come forward as a report, so it would be in order if the chair wishes to take this up with requiring a motion and a second from the members of the commission.
And the motion is in favor of approving the number of the resolution, what?
That would be resolution 16-25.
16.6, second.
I think, so are all these wrong?
16.6, yeah.
All right.
That's why I asked, what is the?
Yes, it should be 1626 because it's amendment number 26. Thank you.
We have a motion and a second for 1626. Discussion. Those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Resolution passes. Proceed.
Thank you. Amendment 27 adds congestion mitigation air quality projects to the TIP. All of these are new projects. The first 3 are significant because they are 3 segments of the same trail that goes from Chicago to Michigan. The Marquette Trail. This will include the Hammond Project and the East Chicago Project will join up with one another, we believe, beneath the Indiana Toll Road near Kosciuszko Street, which is the border between the 2 cities. Another first is a project for Burns Harbor, and this is construction, again, another segment of the Marquette Greenway from Babcock Road to State Road, it should be 140 right here. 4 alternative fuel purchase projects here, New Chicago, Cedar Lake, LaPorte, and Crown Point. A public-private partnership project here that we're kind of crossing our fingers will materialize between the city of Portage and Family Express that involves the installation of a compressed natural gas fueling station. And finally, a project for NERC here that involves the installation of bus heaters on 50 public school buses. And these buses or the heaters rather, permit the bus to be heated up inside without running the diesel engine. So it's an anti-idling type of emissions reduction. Same as before, ICD is reviewed, public comment, no comments received, and we ask for its approval. Chair?
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, this comes before you with the favor also of the Technical Planning Committee. It does not come to you in the form of a report, but as a resolution, so it would be in order for you to receive motions on this matter.
Move to approve resolution 16-27.
Motion to approve 27 and seconds. Discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Proceed.
Thank you. Amendment 28 are NDOT projects involving construction of a new bridge. We don't know if it's a replacement or an increase in capacity at the end of State Road 249 here leading into the Port of Indiana. There's some issues with the existing bridge there at this time. Bridge deck replacement on US 20, bridge over Amtrak and Chandler Road. This is real close to the town of Pines. Replacement of the southbound and northbound bridges on Ripley Street, just north of I-94. And just a few more here. A bridge painting project on State Road 49, just north of I-94, just south of Tremont Road. Hot mix asphalt overlay project from State Road 49 to State Road 39 on US 6. And finally, a bit of preventive maintenance on State Road number 12. Let's see, this is on the Griffith Highland corporate limit, real close to Ridge Road. But we ask for your approval on this as well.
Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Once again, this comes to you with a recommendation of your favor from the Technical Planning Committee. It does not come before you in the form of a report, however, so it would be in order with the chair's favor to take a motion on this matter.
A motion on 1628.
Motion to approve.
Second.
And a second. Motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. I'd like to circle back to an unfinished bit of business under item 3 on your agenda. Report of the executive director.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, one of the hallmarks of the 2040 implementation of that plan has been the Creating Livable Centers program. And we are gearing up to provide more funding for that coming into this next year for construction as well as some planning. One of the driving forces behind that plan is our planning manager, Iman Ibrahim, and I'd like to present her with her official recognition of 10-year service to NERC senior organization. So if I could take a moment to do that, Iman, congratulations.
Okay, and we need to also circle back to report of the chair, item 5. Under report of the chair, I want to mention a couple of regionally significant activities that took place. The first leg completion of the Dunes Kankakee Trail, which Ty already alluded to. Significant beginning of the trail project, extending north and south for a change instead of east and west across the region. So we're very much welcome for that, and town of Porter's work with that.
We're done with ours, we passed that on.
I know.
Now your responsibility, Mr. Chairman, to make sure it gets to the next step.
And I'll advise you in advance, it will probably not happen until January. The other is to pass congratulations to the City of Gary for a tremendous air show. Very well done, and received, I have heard many very positive reports about it. So, good thing to do. Glad to see it back. With that said, we have a matter in abeyance that adds to the TIP discussion that we just had. It is a matter that comes from the Executive Board, and that is that the Executive Board has discussed and found that they would support, but can't take action on, the addition of 2 direct recipients to the TPC voting membership. And that would expand, there are 4 direct recipients, and we would expand from 2 to 4 to include all the direct recipients as voting members of that, that committee. So if there was a motion, I would accept it to make that addition.
Mr. Chairman, who is the current 2?
The other committee.
NICTE, the Northern Indiana Community Transportation District, and also NERC as a direct recipient. So this would also include the other direct recipients, which are Gary Public Transportation Corporation, and also Michigan City as well. So those would add, those 2 entities would occupy those 2 slots.
Thank you.
Are we?
So moved. Second.
A motion and a second. Discussion. No, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Mr. President. No? Any other discussion to add the 2? All right, barring that, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. We have 2 new members of the TPC. Thank you. EMPC, Mr. Benson.
Sure, I'm glad to take the floor for that, but my comment would be to welcome the direct recipients, because in the committee that holds things to adhere to the 2040 plan, that helps to accomplish it by including the transit operators, the direct recipients, which are a large part of the 24. With the environmental management policy.
Well, now there are 12 members instead of 10.
I'm on camera, I know better than that. Environmental Management Policy Committee, there's minutes from our May meeting in your packet. Our June meeting was canceled for lack of business, and we had one in July. We don't have the minutes here, but you're all welcome to attend. They're always the first Thursday of the month at 9 o'clock. So we hope to see you then. Thank you.
Okay, Finance and Personnel.
Finance and Personnel met this morning, and we have 2 items to bring to the full commission. You'll find it on page 33, Resolution 16-24. A resolution for Northwestern Indiana Regional Planning Commission to establish the conflict of interest written code of standards and conducts for federal procurement. This is required by all federal agencies, the FDA, Federal Highway, EPA. And I make a motion for the full commission to approve Resolution 16-24.
And is there a second? I have a second. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Resolution passes.
Okay, the second item is a procurement recommendation for the purchase of 3 replacement vehicles. And that would be on page 44. You can look that over. Finance and Personnel recommends this to the commission, and I make a motion to approve.
Second. Motion and a second to approve the recommendation for procurement. Any discussion? Those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Recommendation passes. Mr. Powers and NDOT.
Well, let me open by saying thanks to Gary for the complimentary remarks about NDOT. I hope we stay on track there. Sorry, that's set the tone. Actually, as some of you do know, I came from municipal government, so the yearly discussions. Actually, I came from the United States Marine Corps, and then municipal government and state government. So I'm bouncing around, and certainly people at different levels do different things. But what I have learned is as we try to make progress, things happen, and the things that we ask for sometimes cause inconvenience. And I think we talked about that in the last meeting before we do it. With I-94, I urged all of you to remember we all wanted this and we all need this because we need to improve our infrastructure, we need to maintain infrastructure. With that said, the best laid plans in Meissen and engineers, engineer projects with engineering interest, if you will, in mind in most cases, and they should. That is what they're trained to do. You, of course, are trained and you are elected to represent the people and businesses and residents that are sometimes inconvenienced by what we're trying to do to make progress. That being said, we noted some signboards that we had tried to work out relative to Michigan City, in fact, and appreciate the patience of the mayor while we worked it out. Just a network issue, some signs have been blank. Because again, as these projects take place, there are businesses affected. Businesses that are advertising along 94, as exits are closed and things happen, we understand that. And as issues arise, we try to address them as quickly as possible. We did, and those signboards did go down. And we do know that people are affected, and we're working as quickly as we can to complete the project. But again, as these issues arise, I want to also say that I've learned to be quick to apologize. As those things happen, I will offer an apology, but also work diligently to correct them. So I'm kind of jumping around on what I wanted to say in that regard, but those signs have been prepared and are operating. So, Mayor, again, I'm sorry, because you set me here for this reason. So apologies. So that being said, I've also wanted to move on to a concern that was passed, I believe, in writing by Gary Transportation on a standing water issue a couple of meetings ago. And we are actively investigating that area along Fifth Avenue. And we found that there may be a blockage within a city line in that area down around the stadium in that regard. Again, it's a city line, but we are going to set a vacuum truck in that area, do a little more, televise it if we can, figure out where the blockage is. We also are doing a full survey along that stretch, determining if there's some milling opportunities to move the water that is standing in that area. And the bottom line is just looking to see what the issues are and where there can be resolution. We've been working with the city of Gary in that regard into what we can do. We don't have the answer yet. I just didn't want you to think we weren't working on it because you haven't heard from me in 2 meetings in that regard. We are actively pursuing resolution. Mowing and herbicide schedules have been driven to morning. We've noted with the hot weather and rain, for whatever reason, we had a lot of vegetation. I don't know if it was spring fertilizer instead of herbicide earlier in the year, but we are on our second spraying to take care of the herbicide along the Borman in that regard, or to take care of the vegetation in that regard. And mowing is underway. As I said, Restore 94 is underway. I-65 expansion project is still in preliminary planning or work to advance in 2017. And I believe we are looking, the final request for proposal on August 1st with the selection of the preferred proposer on September 30th. And again, construction is expected spring of next year. With that, I would be remiss not to mention to the mayor to my right that as of yesterday, I've got all cable barrier outside, the construction is up and working, so kind of a standing point, because I know it's of interest to many others here at Anthony, because it is of interest to everyone, and it's a city now. I believe that concludes my report, Mr. Chairman. If you have any questions, please.
Questions for the director? Hearing none. Other business? Yes, sir. Bob?
Mitch, is he still in here? Hi. In 2002, you put out a thing called a home builder survey, which showed the homeowners' second highest on the chart was walking, jogging, and bike trails. Is there a more current, up-to-date of that?
Thank you, Chairman, Commissioner, Chairman. We have, what you actually quoted was a survey from the National Association of Realtors. And to my knowledge, they have not updated that survey. They did it in conjunction with another national organization, and I'll be more than happy to do the research to find out if they have updated it.
Does that impress my community that that was number 2? Highway access was number 1.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
I'm on the Transit Operators Roundtable, and Hamden doesn't have a transit system enacted, so I would resign that position and recommend Mayor Merritt take my spot in that position since he does have an active transit system. And obviously, the mayor of a large city, I think, should be on this board. So if you don't mind, I'll resign my spot on the Transit Operators Roundtable with the recommendation that Mayor Merritt take my place, and I know he's interested.
As a liaison to that committee?
Yes, sir. Okay. Is that something we have to vote on, or?
The chair has no objection to that, and that was a chair appointment. So we'll make that appointment. Let the record show that that responsibility has been shifted to Mayor. Any other comments? If not, public comment. Mr. Nowacki?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My name is Jim Nowacki. I'm a resident of the city of Gary, Indiana. And I was very glad to get this map today, the paddle map. Mostly I do petting rather than pedaling or paddling. And I opened it up immediately. I find an error. There is no Walter Street in Gary, Indiana, and I'm sure that'll be corrected for the next map. So I don't like to just criticize. I also like to bring some assistance too. I've complained an awful lot about the 1220 project, NDOT project, and from one end of the project to the other, it appears to be a disaster. But a crucial problem as part of that project is the sidewalk immediately in front of our public library. We put about $4 million remodeling the public library. NDOT put $40 million on the road and the sidewalks. They're brand new road, brand new sidewalk. But when they put the sidewalk in, they put it in too low so that the sidewalk puddles. Now, to NDOT's credit, they did take some action. They put in a strip of dirt so the water could go into the dirt. And then that didn't work, so they put in some pavement and some permeable pavement, and of course that didn't work. And then they put in some French tile drains, and of course that doesn't work. And then they cut a little trough along it so that it would kind of drain from the sidewalk down to the road, and of course that didn't work. The library came in, they had to do some, they had to change the contour of a portion of the sidewalk. Of course that doesn't work. The problem is the sidewalk right in front of a brand new library is too low. And like a carpenter who keeps cutting the board and still finds it too short, the sidewalk has to be replaced. I've got pictures showing residents, Gary residents, waiting for a bus, and this goes along the lines of what and I brought it to the GPTC. They're waiting for the bus, and there's a big puddle there. And so the bus pulls in, and they can't, and one of the ladies in a wheelchair, I'd love to share this with Mr. Powers, I've got a photograph. And the lady can't get from the sidewalk in her wheelchair onto the bus because there's a big lake right at the end of it. The sidewalk is such an obvious, it's such an easy project. People look at a sidewalk and they think, well, you don't have to do any thinking about it. It's just a sidewalk, and you walk on it, it's always there. But when you put the sidewalk in wrong, and then you go through all of these torturous things to correct it, and it's still not corrected, and it's right in the middle of a $4 million improvement to our main library. It's just simply wrong. And Mr. Powers and the NDOT, they have to get out there and correct that. And there's a million other things I want to complain about it, but this is so obvious and so important and crucial that it has to be corrected. 3-4 times they've tried, it has to be removed, it has to be put in correct. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm sure Mr. Powers made notes on your concerns.
I'm sure he did.
Ms. Babs,
Yes.
you're down for a public comment. Far be it from me to deny anybody the right to have their say.
I am here today, I will comment on
Let
that.
the record show that you signed in. Mr. Wright and Mr. Lampkin?
No comment, just thanks for the action.
You're welcome. That being said, is there a motion for adjournment?
Announcements.
Well, okay.
I'll defer to Mr. Carnahan.
I just want to announce that the Thomas Cedar Lake will be having Northwest Indiana Symphony Saturday night at 7:30, and they have a real tight union with the people that perform there, Rain and Heat. So we have a farmer that is going to donate a couple big fans, and we're going to put ice in front of it because they like performing in our outdoor arena. So we plan to have that take place this Saturday night at 7:30 on our town grounds.
We shall look forward to that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sheehan.
Mr. Chairman, we're coming up on that time of the year when many communities have observations of the National Night Out Against Crime. I encourage everybody to participate in the community's program and show your support for the police.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
For my Lake County friends and colleagues, I just want to remind you, an email went out 2 times. I know that the notice, even in the initial time, was short. We're having a meeting today at the Lake County Convention of Visitors Authority at 1:30. I have 1818 United States flags to distribute as part of our Lake County bicentennial observation and some instructions. So if you can at least make sure that somebody from your city or town, and the county I know is already represented. I don't know if I've heard from Crown Point. I know Cherville's represented, Griffith's represented. I haven't heard from some others, but I'm hopeful that somebody can be there because our date to raise these flags would be August 5th, which is a hallmark date. It was the actual first election in 1816 of a statewide office for governor, and also county officials got elected then. Nobody in Northwest Indiana at that time, Mr. Mayor, we didn't have our county at that time. That happened much later. So I hope that you'll be encouraged to send a staff person there because we'll have important information about that. And I thank the chair and my colleagues for allowing me to share that.
More than welcome.
Thank you, Mitch. Real quick.
Please.
Again, we have the maps available to all communities. I'll be in the back within about 5 or 10 minutes at the garage here at NERC. Please take what you need for your community and distribute it. Thank you.
Get your maps. All right, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
I have a motion. Second? Second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed, same sign. Meeting adjourned.